America, you've been hoodwinked. You've been had. You've been took. You've been led astray. Run amok. Anybody who was paying attention to what Congress was doing with the Foreign Intelligence Surveillance Act, also known as FISA, knows that what I just said is absolutely true. At least you should know. So Congress recently passed the reauthorization of FISA, including a bunch of different amendments that were put forth by various Republican representatives. Now, all of them passed except for one. I'll let you guess which one that was. Yes, it was the one that would have required federal agencies to acquire a warrant before spying on American citizens. Now, for those who don't know, the Foreign Intelligence Surveillance Act, particularly Section 702, which is the most controversial component of that legislation, it allows federal agencies to conduct surveillance on non-citizens, on foreigners, without a warrant. However, the FBI, and I'm sure other federal agencies as well, have abused Section 702 and used it to spy on American citizens without first obtaining a warrant, which is a clear violation of the Fourth Amendment. It's amazing that they were even able to do this. The FBI has admitted to spying on at least hundreds of thousands of Americans without a warrant, and that's just what they cop to. It's likely a lot more. So this Reauthorization Act went before Congress, and as far as this specific amendment, the one that would require a warrant, House Democrats voted against the measure, 84 to 126, while Republicans mostly voted for it, 128 to 86. However, when all was said and done, the vote ended in a tie, meaning that the House Speaker, Representative Mike Johnson, from my new state, Louisiana, got to cast the tie-breaking vote. And guess how he voted? He voted against requiring the government to obtain a warrant to spy on you if you are an American citizen. Isn't that wonderful? Yes, exactly. So he cast that tie-breaking vote. And so they're going to extend FISA. It was originally supposed to be for another 5 years, but they cut that down to 2 years because that basically, if, say, former President Donald Trump were to win, that would give him a chance to actually reform or get rid of the legislation along with Congress, of course. Now, Donald Trump has already spoken out against FISA because they use that in part to spy on a member of his campaign. Now, all hope isn't lost, I guess. Representative Anna Paulina Luna from Florida called for a motion to reconsider this particular amendment, which was, by the way, proposed by Andy Biggs from Arizona. Congress is going to vote on it again on Monday. Now, we'll see what happens, but I'm not optimistic. But the bottom line is the takeaway that you should be taking from this is that both Republicans and Democrats voted against requiring an amendment to spy on you and people like you. The reality is that both parties, they can vote in favor of letting the government violate your Fourth Amendment rights. Why? Because they know you're going to vote for them anyway. They know they're going to get the support that they want. They know they're going to remain in power. There is no accountability. So realistically, they don't have a reason to do the right thing when they get to DC because they ain't going nowhere no matter what they do. So I'll leave you with that on this, but we're going to dig further into this. So let's go ahead. So as I did, I explained what FISA is, and I explained why it's important, especially if you're concerned about privacy and the government spying on you without warrant, with no due process, no nothing. So here are the implications, because again, they are going to vote to reconsider this. I don't believe that they will vote for the amendment. I hope I'm wrong, but realistically, given what we've already seen, they're going to do what they want here. So the revised version of the FISA bill basically outlines a 2-year reauthorization rather than 5, like I said before. This is a strategic move because, again, if Trump wins, then he can possibly get credit for eliminating the practice altogether, at least when it comes to spying without a warrant. They're teeing this up for him, and that's supposed to, make us feel better. And President Trump has spoken out vocally against it. Now, when he did that press conference with Speaker Johnson at Mar-a-Lago, he kind of went easy on it, but I know he's not happy about it. But let's talk about some of the other amendments. So Representative Chip Roy from my former state, Texas, he proposed an amendment that would require the FBI to report to Congress on the number of queries conducted on Americans. Now, that was successfully passed. Okay, that's fine. That's oversight, no problem with that. Representative Dan Crenshaw, also known as Eye Patch McCain, also from Texas, he proposed an amendment that would update the definition of foreign intelligence to target international narcotics trafficking, specifically Mexican drug cartels, the ones that are shipping a lot of fentanyl and other drugs into the country. And they're essentially poisoning Americans because, long story short, the fentanyl that comes over the border, most of it was manufactured in China. It's a lot more dangerous. It's a lot stronger than what you get when you get a prescription. And they're being laced into regular street drugs, which means that probably most of the people who end up overdosing or get in danger of overdosing don't even know that they are ingesting it in the first place. And then next, there was an amendment brought by Representative Michael Waltz from Florida that would allow the use of Section 702 to vet foreigners traveling to the US. So, I mean, if there's somebody who's coming to the country that might be a little bit suspicious, this would allow the authorities to vet them before they get here. Okay, fine. So then we also have Representative Mike Turner from Ohio, Republican from Ohio. He his proposal would update the definition of electronic communications service provider, and that also passed. So again, they passed everything except for the amendment that would put a limitation on federal agencies like the FBI and others, saying that they have to obtain a warrant before they spy on before they spy on an American citizen. So Mike Johnson has received a lot of flack over this, and he's been receiving a lot of flack over this since even late last year when they were actually supposed to pass some sort of reauthorization that included the various amendments. That didn't work out. I mean, there was at one point I wrote about this where they were going to have two competing bills introduced by Republicans to reform FISA, one from the House Judiciary Committee, and I think from the House Ways and Means Committee, which was a really dumb idea. Why not just come up with something? And in that instance, they weren't even going to allow people to add amendments. They were just going to pass something. Yeah, bad idea, Speaker Johnson. Like I'm very disappointing, to say the least. I'm being a little diplomatic here. But anyway, there was that whole saga. Then they punted it down the road, and the actual deadline for them to pass this, because now that the House has passed it, is going to the Senate, and we don't know what's going to happen there. But they have until the 19th of this month to pass a bill for President Joe Biden to sign. Otherwise, it sunsets, which means it goes away, which is actually what I would prefer to happen anyway, because the authorities have been using this legislation to violate people's rights. The most notable person was Donald Trump, but he's not the only one. And it wasn't Donald Trump himself that they spied on necessarily, but they spied on a member of his campaign, Carter Page. See, the way they do this, by the way, when they use Section 702, there's a loophole that they can use to spy on Americans. So they don't spy on, so using this legislation, I'll put it this way, they don't spy on Americans directly. What happens is they spy on foreigners who are in communication with American citizens. And then that's how they can pick up information on American citizens without going after them directly. Now, you know, I believe that they spy directly on American citizens without warrants anyway, but they just use a different loophole to do it. Requiring an amendment for FISA would actually eliminate one of those loopholes. They still find other ways, but it's still a step in the right direction. You know, but we still have the issue, but if we can make it harder on them, why the hell not? I mean, this is a no-brainer, guys. Like, if you're going to Congress and you swore an oath to the Constitution of these here United States of America, you know that this violates the Fourth Amendment. You know this is a violation of rights, and you know how easily it can be abused. It is not hard to vote against something like that or vote for a measure that would require them to, you know, abide by the Constitution that they swore to uphold. It shouldn't be that much to ask. Yet Republicans and Democrats are working together on this. Now, I will give some credit to the ones that voted in favor of the amendment because they actually take that part of their job seriously. fine, great. I mean, Thomas Massey and some others, a bunch of others, voted for the amendment. But to me, this should be a no-brainer. These are not stupid people. I mean, I think like 70% of them are lawyers. They know the Constitution and they know that this violates it. But again, my main point here is that they're not going to stop doing this because they know that there's no accountability. None of the people that voted against that amendment are going to worry about primary challenges because when it comes time to go to the ballot box and vote for your nominee, you'll probably have forgotten about this. I mean, I hate to put it that way, but it is. America is not engaged enough in politics at the federal, state, and local level to where they're paying close enough attention. And in the end, these elections are little more than popularity contests. So if we're not taking it seriously, then why should the people we elect take it seriously? If we show that we don't really care about this stuff, they won't either. And they're going to continue doing things that are intended to expand the government, thereby expanding their power and the power of their friends, their cronies, the elite class, all of that, because we're not willing to do something about it. And unfortunately, as much as I hate to say this, people always ask me, are things going to get better? I think they will eventually, but it just seems like at this point, it's got to get worse before it does get better. Because I guess we're just not feeling the pain enough to where they can pass a bill that opens the door wide open for the government to spy on us without a warrant and not face any consequences. Now, I do hope that I'm wrong. Maybe I am. Maybe more people are taking this seriously than I think. I would love to be wrong about this. I would gladly eat that crow. I'd put a little slap your mama seasoning on it, some hot sauce, whatever. I will eat that crow. But chances are I won't be eating that meal anytime soon. So that's what I have to say about FISA. I'll probably give an update after next week because I'm sure there's going to be more that happens, especially when it hits the Senate. But until then, catch you on the flip side. See you in the next segment.